my screen set up.
Okay, Manik, are we live now?
Tell me when you're...
Yes, we are live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to, on behalf of OBBI, Overseas Volunteers for a Better India, I would like to welcome all our viewers for this session. Again, my name is Dipanshu Sandhuri, one of the members with OBBI. So just, before we start the session, I would just like to give a little overview of what OBBI is. So we are a group of Indians abroad who want to bring about a change in India and also stand up for the causes related to Indians abroad. And we just got our 501c3 approved a couple of months back, and we are a non-profit organization, and about 6,000 members in in US and around more than 500 volunteers across different cities in US. And one of our major contributions have been this year when India oversaw, the biggest Lok Sabha elections. Our volunteers had created a voter registration application, and in partnership with the Election Commission of India, we registered more than 500,000 voters back in India. In addition to that, recently we had Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, visit New York, and we were one of the biggest, the organization partnered with IACF, who organized the community reception of Prime Minister Modi, and we got more than 1,000 volunteers, 1,000 members in a gathering of 20,000. So we are one of the biggest put there as one of the biggest partners. And just to give you a little idea what OBBI stands for, what are our current focus. This year we have three major goals, three major projects. One being School of Good Governance. So in India we are partnered with Shishi University School of Good Governance, a very unique program for youth, young people who want to join politics or want to be part of, formulating public policies. So OBBI, as part of that initiative, has provided scholarship to around 12 students for 2 years, starting. So that program started this year. In addition to that, as part of our good governance initiative, we started the Sarpanch program. In that, we will be providing workshops to Sarpanches at village level, at grassroots level, and giving them training session with experts on rural development and other issues. And another series of projects we have taken from different domains, that is women's safety and child development. As we all are aware of some of the issues in India regarding women's safety. So one Project Udan, that is to provide safe havens for about 50 kids from a red light area in Sonakachi, Kolkata. Unfortunately, some of these kids at the very young age are forced to prostitution. So OBBI has taken the initiative to provide them shelter, education, and most importantly, a better future. And another project is Project Vishuddhi Women Sanitary Napkins project in tribal villages in India to provide a low-cost sanitary napkins. And this is a pilot project again. We started in Jharkhand. And the idea is to replicate this project across several villages and also to collaborate with government of India and to see how we can make this a big success and providing, reaching out to people and helping them with all these causes. And the last one is our initiatives back in India is rural development, and one of the projects in that category is Light a Lamp. We have collaborated with Shishi Rural Development Program to provide solar lamps in villages the villages which doesn't have access to electricity. And so far we have been able to reach out to 50,000 people through Light a Lamp. So all these projects as NRIs we are contributing towards India. And in addition to that, OBBI is also committed to take some of the issues NRI community has been facing here, be it immigration or be it some of the issues related to women here in US which NRI community faces. So as part of our commitment, we have started this series of hangout series with some of the experts in immigration. So this being one of these series, and I would now I would like to, before we start this the discussion on immigration, I would like to introduce my co-host Sujan Shriram. Sujan is one of the OBBI leaders from New Jersey, and I also have Manik Tyagi. Manik has been associated with OBBI for some time and for other organizations related to Better India projects. And we have amongst us, I would like to welcome Mr. Rajiv Khanna. Uh, he's our guest speaker. So I would like Sujan to introduce Mr. Rajiv Khanna and start this Google Hangout.
Hi, thank you, Dipanshu. So I'd like to take the opportunity of introducing Mr. Rajiv Khanna, who is an eminent U.S. immigration attorney and an expert on immigration law. He's a member of the Virginia and D.C. bars. He's the principal of the law offices of Rajiv S. Khanna, D.C. Since 1993, he's focused his and the firm's practice on employment and business-based immigration and related to administrative and federal litigation. Rajiv has been providing educational seminars for more than 10 years with an emphasis on practical approaches for compliance and immigration laws. Thank you, Rajiv, for taking time out and sharing your perspective on what the recent proposal by from Obama's executive actions are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so first of all, let me begin by saying that my overall impression of the action taken by the government is still fuzzy. I'm not sure how far they have gone. I'm not sure how far they want to go, nor am I sure how do they intend to proceed. Let me get into it. First of all, an overview. How does governance in the United States, also in India, how does it work? We've got three levels of governance, three branches of the government. You've got the legislature, which in India is the parliament. Here it's Congress. They are the body charged with making the laws. Then you have the executive, which is the office of the president in the United States, prime minister in India, who is charged with the responsibility of carrying out those laws. Okay, if the president is the CEO, you can think of the directors. And then you have the judiciary, which is charged with interpreting the laws. How are the laws? They interpret whether the laws have been, are they constitutional? Is government's action illegal? So basically, they're charged with interpreting. Okay, so the three branches of the government work that Obama is contemplating. We have to keep this in mind. How far the president can go. President cannot create new visa categories. He cannot create new visa numbers. He just cannot change a number of things about the laws, but he can still do a lot. So where does the president power derive from? What can he do? First of all, he finds his power in the statute that he's charged with administering, Immigration and Nationality Act. For you, those of you who are IT professionals, think of the statute as a design document for software. It's an overview, okay? We know what it's supposed to do. But the real meat of the matter is in the code. The president creates the code. He puts down the regulations, he states the policy. So he can do a lot by creating policy. So that brings us to point two. He can interpret the law according to his own policy. The third thing he can do is he can choose against whom to execute the laws and to what extent. He can say, look, I'm not going to go after non-criminal aliens. I'm only going to go after criminal aliens to deport them. Okay, so those are the three elements that he can rely upon. Coming to the policy that has been announced. The key components of that policy, and I'll go over them one by one. We had a conference call on Friday. Unfortunately, I could not cover my presentation because there were 200 people logged in, and I answered questions from 50 people, 55 people, and then we ran out of time. That's 2 hours. So I'm very glad that I have this opportunity to actually present this material in an orderly manner. I won't take more than 10 minutes, and then I'll be happy to answer questions. First of all, USCIS is about to, and I quote, about to publish H4 regulations. What are those regulations? Those regulations say, at least in the form that we saw them, they said that if the H1 holder's I-140 is approved, or the H1 holder has received an AC-21 extension of their H1 beyond 6 years, which means their perm was filed a year ago. In either one of those cases, the H4 holder will get their EAD. And in many ways, we like this EAD because this is open market employment. With that EAD, the H4 holder will be able to take 1 job, 2 jobs, no jobs, 10 jobs, start their own business, whatever they want. In many ways, their work authorization would be a lot more expansive than the work authorization of the H1 holder himself or herself, who is confined to working under certain conditions. Okay, so the problem though is, by the time the government decides on what the laws are going to look like, we don't know what the shape of it is going to be. If you look at the pending regulation, the time frame given by the government is that we will have it announced by December. So I'm hoping by December we will have this regulation. Okay. Second thing is they want to improve the employment-based green card backlog by making the system more efficient. Now here's the problem. They didn't go far enough, at least in the written policy. If you look at, there is a missive from the White House that says within 120 days, the government has to, or the relevant departments have to come back to us and give us their planned proposal for efficiency. How can we make the process more efficient? Right now, the process is pretty confusing. The entire green card issuance process is based upon a statistical projection. How many visas will be issued, how many are issued, and this actually leads to wastage many times. And I was told the last year it was almost 200,000 visas that were wasted. That's a lot of green cards. Okay, 5 or 6 years ago, we had started to prepare a lawsuit against the government for a class action for these wasted visas, but that effort fell by the roadside. The firm got committed to a bunch of other things. There was a whole series of criminal defense cases we had to undertake representations in, so we kind of let that slide. But it's a known issue. In software, you would call it a known issue. So we know this is a problem. They're trying to correct that. They're trying to make it more efficient. How far they can go, how far they will go, I do not know. One of the key things that we were looking forward to was the way the visas are counted. Remember, somebody asked me this question on my blog on immigration.com. They asked me, is the per country quota removed? And here is the inefficiency in the system. Think about it. Let's take a number, 7,000 green cards to be issued to each country in a category, okay? 7,000, whether you are a country of 1.3 billion people or you're a country of 700 people like the Vatican City, you get the same number of green cards, and they cannot be taken over one from the other. There is no common bucket. So one of the proposals, one of the things that the Senate bill did, which was pending and never went anywhere, they removed the per country limit. Congress can do that. Obama cannot do that. Okay, but what Obama can do, and that is what we hope to see, he can change the way the numbers are counted. He said employment-based green cards will be counted 1 to an applicant. So if you have 5 people in your family, right now we count them as 6. 1 for the main applicant, 5 for the derivatives. Obama had said several times in the past few months that they will remove the way they count, they change the way they count that, and they will count it as 1 green card per family. That would really help. Okay. Right now, we do not know which way they are going to go. So this is still unknown. One very important component, and I am again not clear about this. I don't know how many of you know about AC-21. In the year 2000, Congress sat down and enacted a law called American Competitiveness in the 21st Century Act, also known as AC-21. The purpose of that law was that people who are suffering for years, 8, 9, 10 years, waiting for their green cards to be processed, they should have some relief from this immense burden. For example, if you want to change employers, you can do that. The problem is you can only change employers once I-140 has been approved and 485 has been pending 180 days. That can take 8 years or 7 years or 10 years, depending upon which country you're from. India is backed up, Philippines, a lot of countries are backed up, and they go up and down too. So one of the key proposals, and I have not seen anything in writing. I've heard about it. There were rumors about this for a few weeks, but I have not seen this in writing in the final format. What they were planning to do, and they might still be doing it, is when you file your I-140, even if your priority date is backed up, you can apply for 485 at the same time. They call it pre-filing, pre-registration, different names. So that would create a big advantage in that it takes you about a year to get to the I-140 stage. You can 6 months, 8 months, a year once you start your green card process. You file the I-140 premium processing, your I-140 is approved, 485 is already pending, you got your EAD. Within 180 days after that, you can leave and go to another employer, or even, according to this particular executive action, even take promotions. They want to make it clear that we do not want to stifle the career path of professionals. Right now, the law is, if you are hired as a software engineer and you try to become a project manager, you have to start your green card all over again. Okay. Another thing that's not clear, under AC-21, when you change jobs, you have to go to same or similar job. What is the definition of same or similar? Nobody knows. We all make guesses. We think same or similar. Well, let's put it this way: as close to same as possible is the most safe and convenient thing to do. But Obama says that they'll make it clear. Okay. The definition of what is same or similar. They want to expand for the students the STEM time further. So right now we've got 12 months plus 17 months, 29 months. They want to expand the time further. Good for us, we like that. Okay. But they also said that we've got to protect US labor and US workers. What does that mean? I have a feeling that they're going to come down and say that just like we have for H1 prevailing wage, they might start prescribing those for students also on OPT. We'll see. They also want to expand and put in more degrees in the list of STEM occupations currently there. If you, I don't know how many of you followed the Senate bill. In the Senate bill, we had a very expansive, good definition of what STEM is, not just confined to a few degrees, but they have truly expanded the field to include a number of fields that were being left out. Okay, so the other exciting part, which from us, we are a firm that focuses on business and employment-based immigration. For us, it's very exciting, and so it would be for people from India and from other countries who are inventors, researchers, and founders of startup companies. So if you're an inventor, a researcher, or a founder of a startup company, we'll do two things for you. We will put you under the category of national interest waiver and give you a green card under EB2 category. Not good for India, because EB2 is very backed up. EB2 is 6, 7, 8 years. Doesn't help me. I put my money in, I can get my green card 8 years later. That doesn't help me. So what this executive action says, it says, look, not only will we give you the green card, in the meantime, in the interim, we'll give you a parole, which is a permission to come to the United States without having to go through the consulate traditionally and start your business. So while you're on parole, you could be working here and also apply for your green card, sort of like what we do now, H1 and green card situation. This is exciting. This is good. This is one part that we really look forward to, because look at the way they talk about it. We will give you a parole if you have already raised financing in the United States, and we don't care what you do, as long as you're going to create jobs. If you have raised financing, so this is in addition to the EB5 category, investor category. If you have raised financing, or you are otherwise your project holds the promise of innovation and job creation, we'll give you a parole to come to the United States. That's very good. That's very exciting. We like that. Okay. They also want to clarify the guidelines for national interest waiver for exceptionally qualified individuals. Here's the problem. When national interest waiver was first announced many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and we started doing national interest waivers, we could get national interest waiver very easily for people without having to go through the PERM process, labor certification process. People who were working in the environment, all those areas that were intrinsically of national merit, we could get green cards very easily. Then came a decision, a notorious decision called New York Department of Transportation decision, which very narrowly construed what national interest waiver is. One of the killer poison pills in that decision was this: how would national interest suffer if you were to leave the United States? That's an impossible question to answer. With all due respect, President Obama could leave the country and resettle in North Korea. We won't miss him. Somebody else will take over. Okay? Nobody can prove that. Nobody can prove that if I leave, USA is going to starve without me. So we are going to make that clear. Another exciting thing. We like to see that. Because right now, and I hate to say this about a government agency, I think individually there are a lot of well-meaning people in the USCIS. But the EB1 and national interest waiver categories are like this. An agency which has no expertise in sciences to judge the resumes of people and decide whether they are exceptionally qualified. So I tell people it's like monkeys with guns. Bandar ke haath mein bandook thama diya. Okay? These are not bad people, but they don't have the expertise. And when people ask me about national interest waiver, I say that's drunk monkey with a gun, because now the criteria are even more vague. So hopefully government is clarifying this. This is well within the power of the president. He can decide how to interpret the laws. This is exciting. We like this. Okay. Another area which is very hurtful to companies is L1B. L1B is given to those employees of companies who have branches in both countries, multinational companies, even small companies, who are holding some kind of specialized knowledge about the company's products, methods, processes. So one example would be, let's say you are, I'm citing from a case we did. You are a Microsoft partner, and you developed a whole infrastructure through which your cell phones, your handheld devices, all of them can talk with Microsoft Exchange. It's a fairly huge piece of software, and you sell it for about $250,000 per license. Okay. Now, the key architects of those software should be given L1Bs because they have this exceptional knowledge of the inner working of your software. But even in that case, we had to submit almost 600 pages of information before we won this case. So what Obama says is we are going to clarify this and make it a little easier. This is the overview of what is being planned. For most people, for Indians, I would say all of these are exciting things, but for people who are already here, the I-140 485 filing together would be very good. But I see no indication of it in writing. I hear about it. I heard that in White House briefings they said they're going to do that. I also heard other lawyers talk about it. This news trickled down through American Immigration Lawyers Association, ALA and all these organizations. But until I see something in writing, I can't tell you if it's going to work out or not. Okay, I want to make a couple of quick points. On my blog, somebody had asked a question this morning. I was doing the answering these questions. One was, does this impact EB3 India wait times? Too early to tell. Are they going to lift per country bans? I already answered that question. Okay, then there was, this gentleman said, his name was Nagendra. He said, my I-140 is approved in EB2 category, and I'm waiting for dates to get current. Can I get my EAD now? And the answer is not until the laws are implemented. Now that brings me to my concluding remarks. How will laws be implemented? Right now, Obama has said, all right, give me your plan of action in 120 days. You know, we can be in meetings for the rest of our lives and not get anything done. You give me your proposals. I'll take them to another committee. Another committee will. We could have death of this by committee. Okay, unless they are really meaning to move forward with this, this could end up in again to use something. We need to break this. They can break it several ways. One way to do that is if they came up with memo-based implementation. Some of these ideas don't need formal rulemaking. Formal rulemaking can be very lengthy. Okay, like you saw, the H4 regulation has been going on for over a year now, I think. Okay, so if we get into the rulemaking for most of these provisions, say goodbye to all these helpful things that's supposed to happen. If they do it by memoranda, it could happen tomorrow. They issue a memoranda, we are going to count visa numbers like this, done, over with. Okay, so that is where the crux of the matter would be. The will of this presidency implementation, not in the ideology. That's all I had to say, folks. Questions, go ahead, please. Comments, if I said something wrong, please correct me. The floor is yours, folks.
Yeah, Manik, go ahead.
Rajiv, though most of the stuff that I got most of the clarification, but yeah, still a couple of questions. The first one would be the proposed change for H4 EAD. Okay, the spouses get EAD whenever that is done. So EAD comes with advanced payroll. That means easy travel. So essentially that would mean easy travel for the spouse, not for the H1 holder.
Well, if the H1 holder is also allowed to file a 485, that would bring parity, right?
Correct, agree. And also at a higher level, do we know any timeline? 1 month, 2 months? They might come with clarifications along this.
That's what I said. The will of the Obama administration will be tested in the implementation. Ideology is fine. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, in Indian Constitution, we have something called, I'm a nerd, I remember so many things from so many years, directive principles of state policy. How many of you remember? Okay, the idea is we have these aspirations. We are going to become godlike creatures overnight. Well, you can aspire to whatever you want. Show me what you can do. That's what I would like to see. So the will be tested in implementation. Let's see how soon they can get to it. Some of these can be just done by memos. Well, I want to make one more point. One more point. AC 21, one of the most key laws passed by Congress to protect people from countries like India, was passed in October 2000. I remember I was very excited because it helps a lot of people. Well, I've learned better. Fully 14 years later, we are still struggling with the issues like what is same or similar, which is the backbone of the law. So we've got the overview, we never got the regulations. For 14 years, government has sat on its haunches doing nothing. Are they going to do this to the rest of it? I hope not. I hope not.
Thank you. That's it from my side. Any more questions, Sujan? And
yeah, so you spoke a little about this pre-registration versus EAD, right? So could you talk a little bit about just to clarify? Okay, what is the EAD? What are the pros and cons of having an EAD versus this potential pre-registration? Like,
well, we're talking about two different things. When we talk about, first of all, an EAD is an EAD. If you're on H1 and your spouse is getting an EAD through H4, or they are getting it through this quote-unquote pre-registration, either way, the EAD is the same thing. So it looks like you could have two possibilities. The only time you could have an EAD through H4 without having an EAD through pre-registration is when you have gotten an H1 extension based upon perm pendency rather than I-140. Okay, and during that time you have an EAD through your H4, but you can't get it yet through your 485 because 485 is not right for filing. Okay, otherwise they are the same EAD. It doesn't make any difference.
so with the pre-registration, you don't have to go for the visa stamping and all that. So all that thing will be cut across. Is that right?
Absolutely. I don't know how many of you watched Sholay. Did you all see Sholay?
Yeah.
Remember that dialogue? "Baat un dinon ki hai jab main Rampur thane mein thanedar tha."
Right.
Remember that? So that's kind of the same thing I'm going to tell you. बहुत पुरानी बात है. It's an old times. We used to have visa revalidation. You didn't have to go outside USA for visa stamping.
Okay.
If you got one H1 visa, you sent your passport to Washington DC. They stamped it and sent it back to you. Why did they discontinue that? That was just absolutely ridiculous. Well, national security. National security has not been helped by visa stamping of people who should not have to go for visa stamping again. I mean, look at one of those terrorists. I don't know if you remember this 9/11 terrorist, Muhammad Atta. Is that the guy's name? Yeah, Muhammad Atta. He got his tourist visa extension after the bombing. So he bombed and he died and he killed a bunch of people and then he got his tourist visa extension.
Right. Right. So the other question I have is, so now we'll be, I'm guessing the way they'll implement this pre-registration is also, it's going to be limited because in terms of the date when you applied for the green card, else there'll be a mad rush for everybody applying for the pre-registration at the same time, right? So do you think that will delay processes now that the USCIS is anyway burdened already with the undocumented workers paperwork? Now will they be burdened further, and will that delay things?
I cannot comment about the resources available to USCIS. I don't think it should be that difficult. Nevertheless, that is part of the administration's assessment. What the burden on the system is going to be, let us see how it goes. I mean, I really cannot comment about that simply because, one, we don't have an implementation, much less an implementation plan. We don't even know what they're planning.
Right. So all this clarity will be provided by Obama's administration, or will it be provided by USCIS, who are going to implement, who are going to reinterpret the existing laws?
Well, the way it works is, like I said, Obama is the CEO of the nation. And USCIS is just one of the departments under his control. So the buck stops at his door. Technically, USCIS is the agency charged with the benefits section. When you get an H-1 benefit, a student visa benefit, a student EAD benefit, all these benefits are adjudicated by USCIS. So they are the ones who should be interpreting and deciding what the implementation plan will be. But unless they have a whip, this is one horse which will never be under control. I'll give you an example. The PERM process was implemented by the US Department of Labor after a couple of years of study by an outside firm. There was an efficiency study done, results were published, and PERM was initiated. Why has USCIS never undertaken an efficiency study? You know why? Too many skeletons in the closet.
Too many? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Too many
skeletons in the closet.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
You have so much, in my view, I could be wrong and I hope I am, there is so much inefficiency in the way they work. These are, again, I don't mean to in any way imply that individual USCIS officers are either bad people or dumb people. It is the bureaucracy. It's the bureaucratic indifference scares me a lot more than intentional evil. Because as an agency, they just don't give a damn. There's so much going on. Right. Individuals, yes. Individuals would be, oh, there's a pop-up here. How long do you have to be on H4 to be considered for EAD? I just answered that question. It's not how long you are on H4. Basically, the H1 holder must satisfy one of the two. This is in the proposed regs. I don't know what the final regs are going to look like. In the proposed regs, they said you must meet one of the two criteria. Not the H4 holder, but the H1 holder. One, your I-140 is approved, or you've got an AC-21 extension based upon PERM having been going on for 1 year. Okay. So I'm sorry. Did I miss some point, or did I cover what you asked?
Yeah, I think that's fine. One more question. Like I read it somewhere. Like they are also trying to speed up the labor process. Like currently, it could take almost a year just to get the labor. So and premium processing in the labor. So is that true or something like that?
There is no such plan that I know of. And by the way, I want to go back to again Rampur Thana. In the old days, good old days, we had received PERM approvals within 1 day of filing. You file today, and it'll come tomorrow. Okay, great. We were delighted. This was a great program. And then they started doing audits, and the audits started taking 8 months. There was a time up to 2 years. Okay, so first they created a system in which they thought they had maximum efficiency built in, and then they disabled that system themselves. So really, without taking any premium processing fees from us, they should be able to speed up the process.
So I want to ask another broader question with regards to how layoffs may impact somebody with a pre-registration or somebody with an EAD. Like what happens to their spouse who might have gotten an H4 EAD? Does she still retain her H4 EAD, or is her status also in trouble?
I don't think so. I'm taking a parallel. We don't have the regulations, but I'm taking a parallel from the L2 and the e-visas derivative, those people, basically when the L1 loses their status, so does the L2.
Okay.
Statuses are piggybacked. They cannot lose their status. That's another big problem with the H1 work visa. You have no grace period. If you let go today, tomorrow you're out of status.
Right.
There is no 30-day grace period. A lot of people think that there is not even 1 day.
I thought there was a 1 month grace period available for H1, and which is not the case for EAD.
There is no grace period for H1. That is the biggest fallacy, and not only H1 holders, but employers and lawyers are confused about this too. It used to be again Rampur Thana, old times, there was a 30-day grace period, which was perhaps because of an oversight, a legislative oversight. For the last 10 years or so, there has been no grace period.
Oh, okay.
One more thing, once people get, suppose based on 140 they get EAD. So will that EAD allow them to easily change jobs? And if they lose jobs, suppose somebody is fired, what happens?
Let me tell you the mechanism of the AC-21. Again, I'm extrapolating from what we know. So let's say you've got your I-140 filed, and your priority date became current under the current system, and you file your 485. Okay, your 485 has been pending 40 days, not 180, 40 days, and you got fired. Okay, you sit at home watching cricket all day, and about 3 months later, still not 180 days, you got an RFE from USCIS saying, we need to confirm your availability of a job for you. Please provide us an employment letter that shows you've got a job. Now here's what you can do. So you've been out of work or out of the after filing 485, about 4 months have passed. Okay, as long as within the RFE you are able to give them an employment letter showing same or similar job, your green card will not be lost if you have met the 180-day deadline. So if you get the response in, the 180 days are complete, you file a response, you're fine. If, however, they ask you the day after you leave, and now you have to respond within 3 months because you left your job before 180 days were over, and the response date files within those 180 days, you're going to lose your green card. You'll have to start all over again. Okay. So once again, the key component of AC-21 protection is this: when USCIS asks you about providing a job letter, employment letter, your I-140 must have been approved, and 485 must have been pending 180 days. It doesn't matter when you left, but when they ask you and you respond, that 180-day deadline must have been met. So to come to your question, if I get laid off on the 160th day and I leave, I've got my I-140 approved, 485 is pending 160 days, am I going to be in trouble? No, because even if USCIS asks you, you can get an employment offer letter and give it to them within right after the 180 days are over. So 180 days do not require you to continue working or to have a job or to have a same or similar job. If you work at a gas station for a month, that's fine. But when they ask for it, you must meet two requirements: same or similar job, and two, 180 days have been crossed when you respond to them. Make sense?
Yeah, Rajiv, we have been getting some questions from our viewers as well. So there is one question regarding L1 visa category. So it says, what is the impact of current policy of pending cases from L1 to GC and those in litigation?
Not catch the last line of your question.
Yeah, I will just post it. And
what will be the impact of the policy? I got it. Of the pending cases from L1 to GC and those in litigation. Well, first of all, I am not sure what you mean by litigation. Is it a federal court litigation, or is it an administrative appeals office appeal? And L1 to GC is not covered by this ruling because, see, L1A and L1B are two different. I'm going to address L1B right now. You don't get any special dispensation for green card for L1B. You've got to go through PON. So L1B to green card is no straight path. L1A to green card is EB1C path. That's a different thing. So I'm not sure if you're clear about the question. If you could tell me a little bit more details. But right now, what you asked me, are pending cases going to be governed by the new interpretations? You can always refile the L1. No law that says you can't do that. So even if your case is not covered by the new, you can refile when the new implementation takes place, even if the previous case has been denied.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions on behalf of the students. So we know that the previous extension from 12 months to 29 months was only available for those students who join a company that is e-verified, right?
Right.
So with the new proposal, would the e-verify clause still be there, or it's open so they can join without any restrictions?
I'm making a guess. I would be surprised if they remove the e-verify clause. I'll be very surprised. I think it's going to stick on.
So how many companies are e-verified right now? I heard 10% only, right? Is that?
I don't have that number. I'm sorry. I can't answer that question.
Okay. And supposing there are people already working on with their OPTs, will the current proposal also help them, or they'll be only it'll only be applicable for students who will be graduating next year? So that's also open to interpretation.
That granularity we don't know. We don't have the code yet. We just have the twinkle in Obama's eye.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, but the one thing is that the unpaid OPT is definitely on its way out. Is that right? Like if I work for a firm with on a voluntary basis, that's no longer accepted.
For the smart employers, that's already out. Because if you look at immigration law cannot be practiced in isolation in a box entirely its own. We live in an environment of laws. Every time you move, you are affecting 30 different laws. So in this area, Fair Labor Standards Act requires any for-profit company, when they have an employee work for them without pay, has to meet some very, very strict criteria. I don't think any smart company can ever take a person's work without paying for it, because it could come back and bite them. Fair Labor Standards Act says there are two kinds of companies, non-profit and for-profit. Non-profits, if they have routine, regular internship programs, they can take on interns. For-profit, you've got to pay people, unless you can establish that you have, number one, a well-defined internship program, and number two, that is only for training people. It isn't to get useful work out of them. So this is not, you shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Right, that's true. But there have been instances where people were working, but I guess that's kind of under the law or something, where people are not.
Yeah, exactly. I always give this example. I say, if you're driving on New Jersey Turnpike and you decide to go 85 miles an hour, and so is everybody else, that does not change the speed limit.
Right. The other thing you mentioned about entrepreneurs, that they will be able to get a special visa if they are able to show some financing. Is there a limit to the financing? Like I'm aware that you need to have a minimum $1 million of finance investment in US in order to avail of these entrepreneur visas, or you have to employ at least 8 people. That's
That's EB5. That's a totally separate ballgame. EB5 requires $500,000 or $1 million, depending upon where you are investing and what you are doing with the money. If you invest in a rural area or a targeted employment area, it's $500,000. Or you go with an investment center, it's $500,000. If you are investing otherwise, it's $1 million. So that's a separate thing. I don't think they're going to go this far. It won't be $500,000 million. I don't think so. We'll see.
Okay. So we just have, sorry. Go ahead.
Rajiv, a question. Like all this, like a lot of people are already going to courts for and suing Obama for the whole executive action. Are they doing it precisely only for the illegal folks or everything? Or can they do?
People are going to court? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question.
Okay, and people are going to court to sue the president for executive action. Can this?
I love this country. Any damn fool can sue anyone.
Sure. So can this halt the legal part of it also, or everything, or?
This is what Obama has done is very, very concise. He's not used a machete. Okay, I think he's done it well. If you look at, for example, if you look at the missive from White House, the memo that says, "Give me your recommendations within 120 days," it kind of says in there, this does not create, abrogate new rights. Also, everything must be done under, according to the law. So they're protecting their backside. I don't think these lawsuits are going to be easy to be won. Are they getting sued for the action on the legal immigration side? It brings up a couple of interesting questions. First of all, I don't think the lawsuits are going to be successful. Second, the lawsuits are targeted towards the millions of people who are being held, whom Republicans believe should not be held. But can an executive order stand by itself after having been held void as against certain things? Let me rephrase that. That was very poorly phrased. Can we pick and choose from, or can a court pick and choose? This survives. This does not survive. I do not know. That depends upon the language of the executive order. I think it can. It depends upon how it is drafted. But right now we have a policy. We don't even have an executive order. We still have a policy.
I'd also like to take the opportunity to understand what is the proposal for undocumented workers, because I believe there are about 450,000 Indians who are undocumented in the US. So we also wanted to understand what potential benefit they may get.
I don't do much work with undocumented folks. And whatever I do it as a matter of community service. From what I understand, it's been a while since, I've been so busy looking at the legal immigration side. Let me try to remember. If your child is a US citizen or green card holder, we will not deport you. We won't give you any rights. We will not deport you and you'll get your EAD as long as you start paying your taxes and you register you pass the background checks. So that's one part. So once again, your child has to be a US citizen or green card holder. Second, the DACA, the DACA, they are expanding that to a date which is more recent rather than whatever it was in the past. So people who have come till this date are now eligible, and they're also expanding the age. Those are the two components of illegal. I'm surprised I remember. Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
Take the opportunity to tell everybody that this is an educational series. We'll have a series of discussion about immigration even in the future. We just dipped our toe into the waters about undocumented workers, but if there are people interested, we will be having another conversation in the future, which we'll update you on about undocumented workers. Sorry, Dipanshu, go ahead.
Yeah, Rajiv, we are getting a lot of questions from our viewers. So there's one question regarding invalidation of a visa. So it says, I came here legally into US, but due to circumstances, my visa became invalid. I've been here for 14 years. And do I qualify under this plan, under the new statement by President Obama?
You should be able to, because how you entered is irrelevant. The fact that you've been unlawfully present for X number of years, if you have a child who meets that definition, you should be able to qualify.
Thank you, Rajiv.
My pleasure.
Another question is like the EAD that people will get, whether H4 or the other EAD based on I-4, will that be restricted to only a few job kinds? Okay, you could do high scaled, and till what time, like till GC?
Well, obviously for the primary, the H1 holder, you are confined to same or similar job. Okay. But you can have career progression. Okay. But for the H4 holder, even now, for the derivatives, there is no limitation on what your wife can do. If you are the H1 holder, or if she is the H1 holder, no limit on what you can do. You can open your own company. You can, in fact, it's an interesting thing that under AC-21, you can actually be an employee of your own wife's company with the same or similar job.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That's allowed. That's the law. Look at the Yates 2005. It answers the question in double negative. Can I get AC-21 through my own company? It is not forbidden.
So Sujan, go ahead.
So I just have one more question. So you mentioned initially that there are about 200,000 visas that are that were not used, but Obama does not mention anything. Is it just a matter of interpretation of the regulation, or these visas? Because there's some discussion saying that these visas are not really available there because they were allocated to the family-based visas. So there are really no unused visas. What could you provide some thoughts?
I looked into this situation about 5 years ago. As I said, this is a known problem, an existing problem, and a chronic problem. And we did think there was a cause of action. I don't remember exactly what the problem was. We looked at the way visas are supposed to be allocated, and under the statute, there appeared to be a problem. In fact, the government was violating the statute, in our opinion. So, if President Obama were to announce a different plan, he would basically be coming in line with the will of Congress. By the way, guys, I want to point something else out to you. If Congress wants to strike down some of these actions, can they do that? It's a very interesting question. Can Congress put its head together and say, you know what, we're going to overrule Obama? Can they do that? The answer is probably not. Why? In order for them to overrule Obama, they have to come up with a new law. If Obama does not like the law, he doesn't sign it. That's called veto. There are two kinds of veto, general and bucket veto. It's, for our purposes, veto. In order to overrule the veto, the bill goes back to Congress, and it's got to be approved by both houses by 2/3 majority of the members present and voting, as long as there's a quorum. They don't have 2/3 majority. So really, by writing the law as they wrote it and giving Obama the leeway to act as he wants to, they cannot really directly stop him. What can they do? They can defund it. Like one of the proposals that was floating around was, okay, if he gives all these undocumented folks permission to work, we'll defund Social Security card printing. So he won't be able to print the cards. It sounds like a kabaddi match.
Also, one more question, almost related. Like, can all this be revoked by the next government?
Oh yes, of course. If we lose the White House to the Republicans next time, what a disaster that would be. The new president could come and change everything. Sure.
But then that would leave all the undocumented workers as well as the EADs just hanging in balance, right?
Absolutely. Undocumented workers are not being given any perpetual rights. They're only being given the assurance that as long as Obama is around, he's not going to deport you.
All right. But then you'll be, in order to benefit, you'll have to register yourself, so you're exposing yourself.
That was the problem with DACA. When DSCA first came out, that was the first objection my worthy colleagues who work with undocumented aliens, they put out. They said, you know what, we are basically exposing ourselves to your scrutiny. And the government said, well, tough, that's the way it's going to go. Did you run out of questions?
I suppose we are out of questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are still tracking our viewers on the Google Hangout. And
by the way, I did tweet and I did put it on Google Plus once I got the link, like 7 minutes before we started the conference.
Oh.
So hopefully some people from our side also, our community also got the message.
Great. So, so guys, just to give you an update. So this is one of the first Google Hangout series we are doing. We will be doing continuation, continuing this Google Hangout series, and we will have, as we get more details on immigration reforms, maybe sometime next week we will have another Hangout. And if some of you would want to volunteer for this cause, OBBI has taken up for the immigration reform, in touch with us. You can reach us at info@overseasvbi.org. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us as well. Manik, Sujan, you have any questions from our viewers?
I just got one question from the viewer, and I'd like to ask that to Mr. Rajiv. After the implementation of EAD for H4s, can the person start working full-time anywhere? This is by Mr. Rahul Sangvi.
Yes, Mr. Sangvi, absolutely. That is the whole idea. You can, depends upon how much you want to work. If you want to work 3 jobs at the same time, your choice.
Well, those are the questions that we have so far. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for taking time out of your schedule.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, Rajiv.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rajiv.
My pleasure, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, and to all our viewers, as I mentioned, you can get in touch with us if you want to volunteer for this cause. And as Overseas Volunteers for a Better India, it's a group, formed by some of us Indians abroad who want to bring about a change in India and who care about NRI causes, NRIs, Indians abroad for their causes. So we are a 501c3 non-profit organization, and we were formed. We came into existence last year. In 1 year, we have, had about 6,000 members and around 500 volunteers across US, working diligently to bring about a change in India in rural, in the areas of rural development, women and child safety, and good governance, and also taking up some of the issues NRIs are facing, including immigration and some issues related to women. And so, just to give a little overview about our current projects, back in India, we have partnered with Shirshi University School of Good Governance to provide students who want to join politics, bring about a change in politics. So we have been giving a scholarship for 12 students for this year program, and then there's another program called Sarpanch training, where we will be conducting workshops at village level for sarpanches, so that they can bring about a change in their villages. So there will be training session with experts on rural development and other areas. And for women's safety and child development, we have 2 projects: Project Udan, where we have launched a pilot project in Kolkata, Sonakachi district. So the idea is we have adopted 50 kids, mostly girls, who are kids of sex workers, to give them a better life, a better future. We will provide them shelter, education, and, as I said, most importantly, a better future. And then another project is Project Vishuddhi, women's sanitary napkins, to make women's sanitary napkins at a very cheap price in rural tribal areas. And for that, in doing so, we are also providing employment to some of the women in those villages. So right now, we have taken a project in one village in Jharkhand, and the idea is to replicate it across other states and villages in other states. And also, as part of our rural development, one project is we have taken is Light a Lamp. We have collaborated with Shri Shri Rural Development Program to provide solar lamps free of cost in villages where there is no direct access to electricity, so that their kids can study, and people can do household stuff in the night, which unfortunately, because of no electricity, there is not much they can do. So these are some of the projects. If you would like to volunteer for any of our causes back in India, we have teams across different cities working diligently, to make to realize these projects back in India, and also for immigration-related issues. If you want to help out, you can reach us at our website. It's www.overseasvbi.org. So there is a link if you want to become a member and support our initiatives, or you want to get more involved and volunteer with us. Again, there is a link there. Or if you want to, financially contribute in any way, time, talent, money, in any way you could, join us and contribute towards and making lives of Indians abroad as well better. So with that, we would like to conclude this hangout. As I mentioned, we will have a series of hangout sessions on this. And in addition, one thing I want to mention, we also have a lot of technology initiatives. So a lot of us are from technology background. So we can use our talent in whatever way we can, and contribute towards the idea of a better India. And I would like to thank Mr. Rajiv Khanna for sharing the knowledge and expertise with our viewers, uh, and our hosts as well, Sujan and Manik. So with that, thank you once again for joining us, and we will be in touch with you. You can reach us on our website and on our Facebook page as well. So thank you once again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai
Thank you,
Hind.
Mr. Rajiv. Thank you.